Ouch.
Welcome back, everyone. It has been a long, trying time since the last time we saw each other, and I apologize. Essentially, long story short, is tariffs have kind of caused many of my clients of my small business to go out of business, which in turn has put me out of business. So recently, I've had to grind and basically get a manual labor job to get health insurance and kind of offset some of the costs. So I've been working here probably 4 or 5 hours a day at the school, but most of my day is working at a different place. So anywho, basically, I wanted to update you guys. I'm still alive. I've healed from my ladder incident, and you see here I am using a scaffolding instead of the ladder for safety purposes. But anyways, this is probably a few months old. I am taking off this metal piece and throwing them out the window. This is to allow us to basically insulate the walls. I did start partially insulating the downstairs, which I will post video footage of later, but basically I ran out of foam, and since these foam sheets are actually pretty pricey, I think they're around about $35 a sheet, I didn't want to waste anything. So I decided to come up here, start foaming this so I could use the offcuts, aka the window cuts, to basically bring back downstairs so I can insulate the rest of the walls. But one of the things I did realize is I did originally insulate the bottoms by putting the sheets on the bottom, and that created a gap on the top where I had to cut smaller pieces to put between these bar joists, and I plan on sliding the pieces straight up and then doing a straight sheet on the bottom, which you'll see soon. This footage has been sped up a lot to kind of save you some time, and hope you enjoy. Alright, so I'm doing a little experiment. Basically, in each one of these electrical holes, it's voided. And what I've been doing is I've just been taking offcuts of foam, and I'm just shoving it in there to kind of just stop the expanding foam from going down. That way, when I spray them in, they should stay and not basically fill up the full cavity, which would, in theory, save a lot more foam. So I have to fill the bottoms and the tops, and I have learned something where there is no space basically to kind of slide the foam up through there. So that's why I'm doing the top ones first up here. And I have a support rod set at the bottom. And then at the very end, I could just cut a piece and just glue it on the bottom, and it would be nice and set. So I'm going to first spray these because those need time to set. I mean, chances are I won't be back for a few days just because I have a ton of work to do. So we'll see what happens, but we're gonna try this first and go from there. So these are all just spray foamed, and the real purpose of this is really to prevent air infiltration. Once again, all these blocks are hollow, so even if there's a little bit of insulation in these spots, it's really not going to make a huge difference. But the big difference here is if there's a hole on the outside, which there definitely are. People have drilled a bunch of holes on the outside of this building for some reason to mount stuff or various things here and there. You're going to have air leakage into these cavities and then leak through the wall onto the backside, which could cause a lot of insulation and heat loss, and I'm just trying to prevent that. So that's what I'm doing here, just spraying all these holes. Hey guys, I know it's been a long time since I've posted, and I apologize. I have been working a new job. The hours are really bad. Just to give you an idea, the last 4 days I have been working it's basically the graveyard shift. So we're talking midnight to 10 a.m. There's one shift that I had that was 2 a.m. to 11, and then I had another shift. The normal shift is actually 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. to 12:30. So they're gearing up to basically, the CEO is coming, which I guess is once every couple of years, so it's like kind of a big deal. So they're really gearing up to give everyone, well, I shouldn't say that. I should say they are trying to not give out overtime, but they're trying to still do all the things they want to do. They're really understaffed, and it's pretty hectic. So I really don't have that much time. I'm exhausted all the time. It is very labor intensive. So my back aches, my hands hurt. So I haven't put that much time here, which in my mind is probably worse because it's definitely going to cost me more money to hire someone to do this stuff. But today I'm here. I do work also at 4 a.m. It is approximately 3:30, 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So that means I have probably 3 to 4 hours before I have to get home, prepare, and go to sleep to wake up at around 2 a.m. so I can clock in at 4 a.m. So yeah, it's been pretty rough. If it looks like I've aged many years, it's because I have mentally. But anywho, kind of to go back on what's going on, all the holes on this wall were filled. I did buy a lot more expanding foam. It has been almost 7 or 8 days. So because of that, it's definitely dry. So I can definitely cut this down, and then I can continue to insulate. And as you see in the corner over there, that has already been insulated up. I'll turn on the lights here. It is daytime, so you can kind of see, but here we go. Here's the lights on. Yep, that made almost no difference. But yeah, basically I've adopted a new philosophy because before the top joists, I did the full sheets on the bottom, and the top joists, essentially the issue was I had to cut to get them around them because I couldn't slide them up because there wasn't enough room after the bottom piece was in. So now I'm pushing the bottom piece up all the way to the top, and that way I'm still going to have to do that cutting. It's just that on the second layer I'll have to do the cutting instead of the first layer. So I'll get a nice clean layer at the top, and then at the bottom is approximately maybe 2 feet of range there. So given 2 feet of range, I could just cut like a regular sheet and just glue that in. I do have a couple 3-inch sheets instead of 1.5, and I was debating if I should just use those because I did get those for free. My friend had, well actually, he got it for free too. He got it from his dad, which was, and I think he might have gotten them for free too. Basically, someone was trying to insulate a garage and then cut them the wrong size, and then they gave them to his dad, and he was going to use it to insulate part of his shop. And then he just ended up using like a roll-in fiberglass, which is a lot easier than cutting rigid foam. And then he gave it to him, which he was doing a kitchen remodel, and there was no insulation in the kitchen, in his kitchen wall, because his house is also built around the same time. This was like 1900s. And he then realized that was too much work too, so it sat in his garage for another 6 months. And now it's to me, and I told them I will definitely put them to use. So it's just a question of where. So the main reason why I have 2 layers instead of 1 3-inch layer is that foam over time shrinks. So you'll have a piece of foam, maybe let's say it's 1 inch, or for you, metric people out there, 25.4 millimeters. It will, over like 10 years, it'll shrink maybe 1 or 2 millimeters, so maybe like a 16th or 1/32 of an inch. And that isn't a huge deal, but what happens is if it's just 1 sheet, an air gap will form. So then basically the outside, originally like R2, all that cold and air will just go through there, and it'll significantly decrease your insulative value. So the goal of that is to prevent that. So what we have is we have staggered joints and taped. Essentially, if it does shrink, number one, hopefully the tape will prevent any sort of gap from opening up because the tape is a little stretchy. And then on top of that, you have the 2 gaps, you have another sheet right in front of it, so the air doesn't have a direct pathway into the house. So it'll still trap that air pocket, or it'll have to move a really long way to get around, which will decrease the air movement and the insulative, keep the insulative values. So with that being said, I'm rambling a lot. I will try to post the video soon. but this is just like kind of a short update. I'm going to time lapse this and I'm going to get to this. But once again, the bottom was not done fully because I wanted to cut these window sections out so I'd have spare pieces to finish the rest of those windows, which is funny because I don't know where that cut piece went. I don't know, I put it somewhere. Maybe it's downstairs already. I have no clue. But anyways, that cut piece came out and it's over there. And then that should fill up the rest of the top of the wall. And once the top of the wall is doubled up, that means I can finish the framing. And then once that's done, drywall goes on. And the beauty of this upstairs is it's a continuous stretch. So I don't have a wall to go through, nothing. So this should be pretty quick. I've already wasted 6 minutes of your time. I apologize. Basically, I'm going to time lapse this and I will start doing this, and hopefully in under 3 hours we'll finish at least the top portion of this wall. And then I guess I'm off in 2 days for a day, and then I'm back on for another 5 days, and then I'm off for a day. So I'm hoping in that time I should finish this. But also it's been raining a lot. I really need to find a nice day to coat the roof. I did contract a guy to do the roof, but that dude is MIA. So big surprise. This is what contractor life is like, unfortunately. It's crazy because I worked in contracting for a little bit, and the competition was literally like, they'd call, they'd get a quote, and they never show up. So literally, if you want to run a successful contracting business, top tip is just do what you say and show up on time. So anyways, back to it. And that is definitely actual advice. You have no idea how many people I called to try to get the roof done. And people wouldn't even be willing to come out to kind of like even look at it. Some of them would just go on Google Maps and be like, oh, here's an estimate. And be like, okay, so if you come out here, are you going to, change the estimate? They're like, yeah, it could range, and it's not like a small range. They'll be like, it could range between, 10 to 40 grand. And be like, well, why can't you just come out then? He's like, yeah, don't want to. So anyways, here is the rest of these sheets basically going up. They're put on with PL300 foam board adhesive, which is adhesive especially made for this. I do have that EPS foam board that you see in the middle there. I'm just using that to kind of as a measuring guide because that's a full 4-foot cut. So I'll know where these pieces end. And that way it gives me a easier idea of if I can cut the windows out without having to plunge a hole into a blind spot and then go around it. So here is basically the first layer just going up. This actually went up relatively well. Before I actually put these up, you can see what I'm doing right now is I'm actually using a caulking gun to caulk up all the holes in the wall to prevent that air infiltration. So this day I also forgot my camera, so this is from my phone. But I miscalculated. This kingspan is actually 2 inches, not 3 inches. So I had to cut a new sheet to kind of do the bottoms. That's okay, since I'm sure I'll find another place to put these in. But once again, these are me caulking up all the existing holes from all the concrete anchors and stuff, just to get everything nice and sealed. And I had to still remove this lintel here, this windowsill. Luckily, it's still daylight, and people aren't staring out the window wondering what all the banging noise is. So once this is done, we're going to do a second sheet, and we should be ready for framing. And that is definitely an exciting time. So this is kind of an issue that I'm dealing with. A lot of these pieces of foam are bowed at the end. And when you push this, the center pops out. So I don't really want to do that right now, but I'm thinking maybe I should just cut this section out and then glue in a flat piece. I'm not really quite sure yet. I don't know how bad it is, but it will make, obviously, the foam not lay flat against the wall. There's multiple pieces like this, so it's not something that can be avoided. Like you can see the top here, same issue. It's bowing out right there. And then obviously the corners here, you can see there's a bit of it bowing out. And that's just the nature of the beast. I guess how it's blown. Sometimes it comes out and it curls at the edges. Multiple sheets, multiple sheets over here. You'll see also have similar curvatures. These are brand new sheets, like these are all curved. So I don't know if that's something that's avoidable or it's really gonna make a huge impact, but it is going to make an air gap, which is gonna drive me nuts. So I may potentially attempt to kind of like rectify that after the glue has been set and dried. So we'll see what happens. And then I just realized that's not cut straight, but that's because that has been cut like that from factory. That's not from me, because none of these sheets are cut top and bottom for me, just the window sections. So next up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue. This is a 32 section, so that requires a special cut. I'm gonna do that at the end, just in case I have a piece that could match that description. It'll save me some foam, which these are like, I don't know, $35 a sheet. So I'm really not trying to, waste any foam that could be salvaged otherwise. So the next layer, instead of going up and down like I did originally, I'm gonna go this way. And that way it will help, lessen the cracks lining up. And that's why I put a random section in here from window offcut, so none of the seams would line up on the way over. So I'm gonna start gluing these pieces down because those will be easy. I'll just be able to come across for most of it until I get to here, which I have to glue the bottoms in. But before that, I wanna put some silicone sealant just along the edge here. You can see where it stopped. So once I do that down, it doesn't even matter if it's dry, because this floor, even though being concrete, it's on the second floor. So it doesn't really, it's not gonna wick moisture out of the ground like, the first floor will. So that's less of an issue. This is just kind of like to prevent bugs from crawling in up and down. Even if we don't get a permanent seal, that's fine, because you do want some sort of airflow and moisture to not be trapped behind the foam. So anyways, I'm gonna get to that and we will continue the time lapse. All right, so this is the second layer on. I've decided to put the sheets horizontal instead of vertical, and this will give us better coverage from these gaps. Even though I have foamed a lot of them and taped them, this will prevent any of that leakage from blowing through if it ever does. So I should have done this with the downstairs, which you guys haven't seen yet, but once you do, you'll understand my mistakes. I really started coming up here just because I wanted these offcuts to kind of finish the insulation downstairs, and since these panels are kind of expensive, I didn't really want to have any waste, or I guess it's because I'm poor and I didn't want to spend more money. That's a better explanation. But once these panels are all glued up and sealed, this is ready for framing, which will definitely make this seem more like a house than a school. And here's some of that framing getting done as well. I just have to make sure all the gaps are nice, and the sill sealer right there is down, which is a thin piece of foam that's usually used on a concrete foundation for a house to prevent wind and bugs from coming in. But these are really, really cheap. I think a roll is only like maybe $8 or $9, and it's enough to do, I think, 50 or 60 feet. So it can definitely do this entire wall. I did buy 2 rolls just for the side walls as well. And I'm not sure if it's actually really going to make a difference since this floor is floating, but it's just a little bit peace of mind. So no moisture will wick through the concrete into the wood, especially because this bottom plate is not treated. All right, guys, today I actually forgot my camera, but we are going to still get some footage. Sorry for the bad audio. What I'm going to do is I have some Greenspan over here. This is our big boy, 3 inchers. This is leftover from a different project. One of my friends cut the top off inaccurately. Actually, it's on that side. So basically, it's useless to him. And because of that, it is useful to me, kind of. So instead of doing what we did downstairs, which was layer them up like this. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do a piece across, and then the next piece is going to go up 4 feet across the other way. So they're orthogonal to each other. So that will allow us to really stagger our joints and make things a lot tighter. So the only downside is instead of doing 2 sheets on the bottom, I'm only gonna do 1, but I'm hoping that won't matter. We'll fill it with foam, we'll get everything going, and we'll go from there. So I have probably 10 pieces of that. So I'm going to try to cut those to 23 inches, leave a gap so I can run the large foam filler and go from there. So before that, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to glue a few more additional panels, or I could actually technically wait. It would be easier than using the jacks on the bottom to just go all the way across. So I will situate you guys here. I will vacuum all that up, clean that up, and then we should get to the cutting. So I'll put you guys on time lapse. All right, up to the hyperlapse. This is probably 10x speed, if not more. I do not work this fast, even though I wish I could. But basically, once these are cleaned up, more of these sheets are getting up, and I'm starting the framing. So framing here is not as bad just because it's a straight through wall. I am putting sill sealer at the bottom. That way, even though this is a second floor, so the bottom piece of wood touching the concrete doesn't actually really matter because it's not going to wick any moisture through it. But the sill sealer will give a extra layer of protection just to prevent that. And here is the rest of the walls going up, and you can see the daylight changing. I totally forgot my camera the other day. That's why we have inconsistent video footage. But basically, the top is insulated to a point where it's ready to get insulated to this corner here. But our biggest issue is this corner. We have a lot of, the existing pipe work up here. As you can see, still here, that protrude out of the ground, and that needs to be cut. And I was advised, obviously, for every job you need the correct tool. I was advised that an angle grinder is not going to be great, and I've used the angle grinder. It's not great, but I figured make do with what you have. So I went out and I picked up a tool, and apparently I've been told this is the correct tool for it. And I've been meaning to get one for a while, but here it is. It is a bandsaw. And number one, this is kind of clumsy because it's real heavy, but it should be a lot easier to use and you don't have to worry about sparks. So we're gonna do that, finish the upstairs insulation. Once that's done, I have actually an idea. So originally what I was doing was I was using 2x4s for the stud wall and the little stem wall that goes on top. And recently I was bequeathed some insulation, which I thought was 3 inches, but it's actually 2 inches. So I can't really use it as I wanted to, but I was thinking of where I could put it. And I think one of the places I can actually put it is above the stem wall area. And instead of using a 2x4, I could use a 2x3. Keep in mind, none of these walls are structural, and I won't be really hanging anything on the top, like, 9 inches of the wall. It'd still be 16 on center. The only downside of a 2x3 is since it's only 2.5 inches thick versus 3.5 inches, the outlet receptacles was a huge concern because I wouldn't be able to essentially mount full depth. They would pop out, and I didn't want to do that. But since I'm not planning on mounting anything up there, it doesn't really matter. And since the 2x4 wall's there anyways, it allows me to get an inch of extra insulation in there. And also, for the wires coming through, I don't necessarily have to drill through them. So I think that is a benefit. I'm gonna go cut this pipe right now and wish me luck because it looks kind of complicated. And this thing it has to be like 20 pounds. It's pretty heavy. So I'm gonna put you guys out here and hopefully, let me angle you guys in a fashion that is good, and hopefully we do not have any mishaps happen. All right, here we go. So we want to cut the smaller pipe here that goes up into the wall. Well, it is less sparky. Ouch. That definitely hit me in the head. Oh. Oh. All right. It's a massive pipe with a lot of bends. So there it is. There's the pipe that was stopping us from finishing our insulation. So, all right. We are back upstairs. Here's what the upstairs looks like. Gotten a decent amount of insulation done. And obviously the one issue we had was over here, where that corner, as you can see where that big hole is, that's where the pipe stuck out. So we couldn't finish this section of insulation. Basically once this is on, I'm just gonna spray foam that bottom area. That way it can fill up again. So, and I didn't want to do this last section, even though it is already pre-cut here, because I didn't want to waste a full tube of glue if I could help it, because this glue isn't the cheapest, but also, you know, it's one of those things. I know it's a half panel, so it's not going to take the whole unit of foam board glue. So I want to be able to conserve as much as I can. And once again, these foam boards are annoying because certain areas are bowed. So you can see there's a light gap. Same thing over here. There's a gap. I did put a little bit of foam in it, but I mean, you'll see the bowing in the corners here. And that's just how it's blown. But overall, I mean, if you look straight down, it looks pretty straight. Shouldn't have too many issues. I'm gonna finish this off, and then once this is finished, then I could consider doing the top, but I should probably do the bottom first, and that way, basically, we can finish the one wall downstairs before really trying to finish this one upstairs. But I also, just in case anyone's wondering, I did leave a gap at the top intentionally. That is intentional. The reason for that is since these two are kind of both impermeable, so moisture could get trapped between the wall and the foam, and you don't want mold to grow here. So you want some breathability. So at the very top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put rock wool in there. And rock wool is permeable, so humidity and air can come through. That way, hopefully this side will always dry out, and you're not really worried about mold buildup. That, I think, is a pretty important detail. It's not because of shoddy work. I left a big gap on the top. It's we want some sort of breathability, and that is it. So I'm going to put you guys on time lapse, and we'll move forward. All right, so just measuring the bottom here and making a couple cuts. This new foam knife is actually fantastic. It actually hasn't burned out yet, which is better than all the other ones I've bought so far. And also at the same time, it has a fan in it, so that helps. So today I happen to have some help. Jordan's here with me today, and only for a short period of time though. He's actually going through the home buying process himself, so he's actually been pretty busy as well. So here's just, I'm doing these sheets completely orthogonal to the original ones. That way we can minimize the gaps that fill up. So once these are all on, each seam should have a non-seamed backing. There's a couple sheets up top that need to get cut and filled in because the second row I did the bottom sheets instead of the top because the top ones have bar joists going through them. So most of this is just pretty repetitive. I have to actually do this on all the other walls as well, and I'm considering after building out these rooms actually getting rid of the drop ceiling on both sides of the rooms and just strapping 2x4s or 1xs to allow drywall to be screwed up, and that will be a different video. But this one is just pretty much about a month's work. So I'm cutting those grooves in there just to get those around those bar joists, and once those are done, I will be gluing the pieces I cut out back over the voids and then spraying foam in to fill up the spot where the bar joists are. So, well, I hope this works. pretty big hole. Has a ways to expand down, so we'll see.